Hey everybody, I am your host Elaad, reporting for Timcast here in Washington, D.C. at the 52nd Annual March for Life. This is the biggest annual gathering of pro-lifers in the country. Let's go talk to some folks, see what's going on. So we're out here today in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. Your sign says, make the choice to give them a chance, hashtag birth mom. Can you tell me a little bit more about what compelled you to come out to the March for Life?
Yeah, so when I was 19 years old, I got pregnant and I was on a basketball scholarship. I wasn't financially stable to have a baby, and I wasn't with the father of the baby that I got pregnant with. And so I scheduled an appointment at a Planned Parenthood clinic in Atlanta to get an abortion pill, and I ended up not going to the abortion clinic. I went home to my parents and I placed my daughter through open adoption because I felt that was the best option for her to have the life that I wanted her to have had she been conceived in the circumstances in which I would have liked.
That's a very powerful story. Was there something that happened that made you change your mind about going to that appointment to get the abortion pill?
Yeah, so I always knew that I didn't want a procedure. I knew that the abortion procedure was a no-go for me. But after learning about the pill, that was more compelling. And so I had this idea in the back of my head that, I don't know, having that appointment scheduled put my body at ease, even though I didn't know if I was going to follow through or not. But I ended up meeting a girl the night I found out I was pregnant. And 3 days later, I was in her dorm room hanging out. And before I was about to leave, she looked at me and she said, I know that I don't know you very well and that this isn't really my place to say this to you, but you will always have a friendship here, but I cannot support the decision that you're about to make. That God put that is your baby, and that's God's baby, and whether you follow through with this abortion or not, from this day on you will always be a mother.
It's obvious that going through with the abortion pill wasn't the right move for you, but what would you say to somebody who says, I still want to have access to that, and for other women to still have access for that? It might be not have been right for you, but it might be right for other women.
Yeah, I would challenge on where their position is coming from, whether if it's because they're not financially stable, they should have access. We have resources for that. If it's because you don't want the baby, well, we have options for that. I would challenge their perspective on that. And then I would also say that I would also ask them to look into the research of what, not only because they want to fight for women, and, they say my body, my choice. Look into what the abortion pills are doing to women's bodies after even the baby is passed. Look at the mental health that women are going through continuously after the abortion, 5 to 10 years up, the psychological trauma that causes them. If we want to fight for women, let's start there. And let's look to see how these pills are not only affecting the babies, but also the women.
Absolutely. You're obviously a young woman who is pro-life. However, most young women in our country are particularly pro-choice. What's your reaction, and why do you think so many young women in our country want to have access to abortion?
Yeah, I think that as women in the U.S., we're taught and told that we are oppressed and that we don't have options. And so when we are introduced with the idea of abortion and we're told all these uplifting things like you get to make your decisions and you need a career and you need, the whole feminist movement, which there's nothing wrong with it to an extent. But when we have all these things being told that we're oppressed, and then women see on national news that, they're taking another right away from us, that's reiterating the ideology to them. And so I believe that's why most women, my age at least, are pro-abortion. One, because the hookup culture is prevalent in our age, so that they can do that without consequence. And then two, they're taught this ideology that they're oppressed, and so taking abortion away from them is affirming that oppression for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
One last topic I wanted to hit on. We're in the first week of the Trump administration. He said he doesn't want to put forth a national abortion ban and that he wants to send it back to the states. Do you think Donald Trump goes far enough when it comes to this issue?
As a Christian pro-lifer, I don't. As a U.S. citizen who did not want Kamala Harris to win, yes. So we have to choose our battles, and there are a lot of things that he's going to do that I fully agree on. This isn't one of them, and there's always going to be compromise in the U.S. So,
absolutely. Yep. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
That's it. God is good.
Yeah. I'm out here today at the 52nd Annual March for Life with Brother Jeff. Can you tell me a little bit more about what compelled you to come out today?
With the Marians, we usually come out here every year to come out to this March for Life. I've been doing it for I don't know how long, but we've been doing it for a while.
Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit more about why this is such an important political issue for you guys?
Well, it's about life. It's about, they're not just clump of cells. This is life. It's serious.
Absolutely. Why do you think abortion has become so popular in our country as the years go on? It seems as though it's only becoming more and more popular.
I think they look at it as liberties, and then the way that the media has been going at it is encroaching on their life, on their rights and so forth. They don't think of the actual child that's involved. if there are, I mean, I know it's a hard decision as well, but it's the point where they think it's like a clump of cells is lesser human than anybody else.
How do you think you guys could turn the table on how Americans understand what abortion is? As I assume you guys are trying to have it outlawed throughout the country and have people not access abortion. What do you think you could do or say to change the attitudes of Americans on this issue?
The first one is definitely pray about it. Second is get some information, know what to do. You got to come at it compassionately too. Just get education and find that there is counseling out there too. If there is something that you are going through a strong psychological situation, think about it and who you're dealing with too.
Absolutely. Is there a particular political person or leader that you think handles this issue with moral clarity?
Like a politician, or I mean, I see it more on the religious side. I can't tell directly on the different politicians who does what, who have a strong stance on abortion, so I can't really answer that.
Absolutely. I know obviously Donald Trump was just put back in office.
Yes.
I know many people look to him for his successes in being involved with the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
However, he said he's come out against the national abortion ban and
Right.
decided to send it back to the states. What do you think about how Donald Trump's handling this issue?
I mean, I think he was doing it unpolitically. I think he does have a pro-life approach to it. I don't know how deep it is. Also, another factor that you're really not hearing about is in vitro fertilization, which is putting the little children into like catatonic stage, and then they got to discard them. I think that's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed because they see it on the life issue, but they don't see what the effects is and the natural conception of the child.
Just to be clear there, you're saying that IVF is unnatural and wrong and you don't want to see it be done?
I want to see that done. I mean, I understand why people are thinking about it, but they need to think about more what happens with it.
Yeah. I guess what would your response be to people who say that while very principled, pragmatically, a lot of these policies would be unpopular across the country? I guess what would your reaction be to people who say that, you're very principled in your stance here, but it's not particularly popular in the country? So, for example, IVF around the country is extremely popular.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the culture is, I mean, it's about what the life is, and that's the focus that you got to focus on. Is more on the life. No matter whatever it's convenience or what have you. Think about the life.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
Well, brother, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Thank you for your work. God bless you both.
Absolutely. God bless you too, sir. Thank you so much, Brother Jeff. We are out here today in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. Your sign says, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness all starts with life. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you decided to come out today?
Yeah, so I'm a government student at Liberty, of course, and we talk all the time about how we were founded as a nation with the basic rights that God gave us, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but people forget that you can't have any of those rights without life, so we're out here marching for those who never get to have those rights that we are so privileged to have in America.
Definitely. You're obviously a young man. It seems as though the youth becomes less and less interested in protecting abortion as every year goes on. What's your reaction to your peers seemingly being very supportive of abortion?
Honestly, I think that we have so lost the value of life in our society that people don't realize how important, how vital. I think people have forgotten how important they are, so they don't view other people as valuable. And so when we know who we are in Christ, a lot of people realize that we are made in the image and likeness of God, but people who don't know the Lord, they're lost and they don't know how valuable they are, so why would they look at another person and see them as valuable?
Is this a top political issue for you as a young man?
Absolutely. So I run the Young Americans for Freedom group on campus, and we talk about abortion all the time because even conservatives aren't as active in it because we'll say, oh, we'll leave it up to some other people to take care of it. These are millions of our fellow peers that never get a chance to breathe, live their lives, and especially as a follower of Jesus, how can we say that we want to save all these people and bring them to Jesus, but we can't even fight for those who are in the womb? We have to stand up, and it has to be something that we're passionate about.
What's your response to young people, particularly women, and who say that I want to have access to what I believe is health care in case I do get pregnant? I don't want to be compelled to bring my pregnancy to term.
Okay, first of all, healthcare is saving a person and bringing them back to restoration where their body is supposed to be. This is terminating a pregnancy. There's nothing that's caring about the situation. Second of all, you're an adult. or hopefully you're an adult. If you're a minor, that's a whole different situation. There's different things that goes into that. But if you're an adult making an adult decision, you need to realize that those things have consequences. Life isn't a consequence, but it's a valuable thing that if you're bringing it into the world, you need to realize what you're doing and care about how you live your life.
Definitely. We're having Donald Trump. He just took office. I think this is something like his 4th or 5th day in office.
Yeah.
When he was running, he said he didn't support a national abortion ban and wanted to send it back to the states to decide individually. What's your reaction to that stance on the abortion issue?
It's a hard one, honestly, because I support states' rights in certain aspects, but just like my sign says, if we can't have life enshrined as a protection in our nation, why even fight for other rights? Because we're fighting over these things about gun rights or freedom of speech, but where's the speech for those little kids? So if we can't have life as an enshrined constitutional value, why fight for other things?
Is that to say you don't believe Donald Trump goes far enough when it comes to the abortion issue?
I think he really had to be careful in election year, and he was trying to get a lot of moderates, so he had to say certain things, but I also don't think he's a rock-solid pro-life person. He even said in the past he didn't support all the different movements in the pro-life movement. So I think he's pro-life in certain aspects, not all of them.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you in particular, one of the people who's being appointed in his cabinet to HHS secretary is RFK Jr., somebody who is extremely pro-choice.
Sure.
What's your reaction to him appointing somebody like that to a position that could have some impact on abortions? The HHS secretary is very involved with the healthcare system in our country. What's your reaction to that?
I thought it was honestly unfortunate that he was putting someone in there that is so pro-choice. I believe that there's checks and balances set in place that he can't just overrule the rest of the pro-life people that are in the cabinet, but there has to be a check on him to make sure that he isn't undermining the pro-life movement that put President Trump in office, because RFK wouldn't be appointed to the position if it wasn't for the millions of pro-lifers that voted for Trump so that we have pro-life people in place.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
I mean, each one of us needs to know that life is something worth fighting for. The moment that we as a nation stop forgetting that life is the most basic right that we have, our conscience, our natural values, all those things that come from God, and if we can't fight for life, what are we as a nation? We're just going to turn into another nation that forgets the most vulnerable in our population. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you again. I appreciate your time so much. We are out here today in Washington, D.C. Beside us is the 52nd Annual March for Life. I see your sign says Planned Parenthood continuing the Nazi legacy since 1970. Can you tell me a little bit more about what compelled you to come out today?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a Jewish American. I'm a pro-life activist. I'm a Zionist. What people don't know a lot about Planned Parenthood is that they're based in eugenics and racism. They were anti-black people existing. They were anti-Jewish people existing. The reason why my sign says continuing the Nazi legacy is the abortion pill, RU486, mifepristone, misoprostol. It was created from the beginning. They started, the corporation that created RU486 also distributed Zyklon B to the concentration camps. And a lot of people don't know that. And at the end of World War II, it disbanded 3 minor corporations. One of those 3 minor corporations is still the distributor of RU486. And there is reason to believe that RU486 was tested on Jewish women in the Holocaust and the concentration camps. And so as I'm standing here today, abortion is a modern Holocaust. It does not replace the atrocities that took place to the Jewish people, but is a continuation of the violation of human rights that we've seen time and time again, where people are being told that they have to be human plus something else to be granted human rights. And so I'm standing here as a Jewish American today to stand against the continuing Holocaust of not just the Jewish people, but preborn babies in general.
Wow. Let me follow up and ask, so despite Planned Parenthood's troubled history, how would you respond to somebody who says, I as a woman want access to abortion to not be compelled to take my pregnancy to term? You know, despite Planned Parenthood's questionable history.
Yeah, there's over 3,500 crisis pregnancy centers in the United States of America. It is absolutely ridiculous and appalling that our government and our officials and everybody else in the United States, instead of giving women access to these options are available to them with life-affirming care, that we are told to women that come into an issue where they have a crisis pregnancy that they must abort their baby. With over 3,500 crisis pregnancy centers, we can give them help, we can give them care, we can give them comfort and support. It is absolutely ridiculous in a post-Roe America that women feel the only option they have is to end the life of their preborn child.
It seems as though the attitudes in the country writ large is going in more of a pro-choice direction. Do you agree with that? And what do you make of our country continuing to go more and more of a pro-choice direction?
Of course, I don't necessarily think the United States of America was ready to be in a post-Roe America. I think we have a lot of work to do to change the culture of life. It's ultimately what it's about. A lot of young people are told, Planned Parenthood, they defend women's rights. And if I was a naive college student, I didn't understand what Planned Parenthood actually was and what they did, I would get on board with that. Who doesn't want to defend women and their rights? But they lie, they extort women, they exploit women's trauma, and they push them toward an agenda that we know psychologically, according to the British Psychiatry Journal that was published in 1997, abortion is 32%, leaves women 32% more likely to commit suicide.
Wow. It's very powerful. Just to even add to the attitudes of abortion in our country, even in the Republican Party, Donald Trump said he's against the national abortion ban and has sent it back to the states. Obviously, not all the states are pro-life. So, what do you make of even in the Republican Party, Donald Trump isn't even fully pro-life?
I think that we are nowhere near a national abortion ban. I think it's a great idea. It's a great concept. We're nowhere close to that. I would be grateful. I'm an abortion abolitionist. I want to see abortion abolished in the federal level, but I'm also a realist and an incrementalist. I think as long as we can get on the books a gestational age at which it is morally reprehensible to get an abortion, that is okay with me. And then we can go from there.
So we are out here today in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. I see your sign says abortion is the #1 killer of black lives in the U.S. Can you tell me a little bit more about what compelled you to come out today?
Yeah, this is my third time at the march, and I think it's just a beautiful thing, just being here and being encouraged by other people and seeing how many people root for life and strive for life. And at least for me personally, I'm black, and so it's kind of unfortunate that abortion, it has purposely targeted black individuals. I mean, in New York, more babies are being aborted than being born alive, which is kind of unfortunate. So I think just stuff like that has really just moved me, and even just the history of abortion, it's been against my race. I just don't feel as a person of color that it's in our best interest, and I'm just here to represent that.
It's definitely very racialized how abortions are affecting different people in our country. Black women are very overrepresented when it comes to abortion, but they are also overrepresented when it comes to supporting Democrats who put forth these laws. So what do you make of so many black women being so outspoken in support of abortion?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to send them love, because again, I wouldn't say that I was fully pro-life at one point in my life. So I just want to send them love, and I completely understand what they're trying to strive for, but at the same time, abortion takes a human life, and it takes a black life, more importantly, and that's something that I feel like a lot of black women, they're not realizing. And even with that, there's so many resources. I know, like, a lot of people like to paint the idea that Republicans, they don't care, we don't care at all, but it's like, at least for me, I don't like to identify myself as conservative. I'm more independent, but a lot of my values represent that. But it's like, we have so many pregnancy resources. There's so many colleges that actually have like dormitories dedicated for pregnant mothers, and they pay for that, so it's been amazing. But I think just to black women in general, I feel like they should be encouraged to not feel like they have to succumb to the majority mindset, and feel free to have that like independent mindset. At least for me, I feel like I get ostracized a lot.
I guess, why do you think so many black women do support women's access to abortion?
Yeah, I think it's because they've been lied to a lot, and they've been told that, number one, that what is growing inside them is not a human, which is wrong. And number two, they're being fed this narrative that it's their right, that it's helping them, when in reality, they don't even, well, I wouldn't say that they don't know, but a lot of them aren't aware of the history behind abortion and who started it and why she started it. She started it to intentionally kill black, and that's I'm just saying verbatim what she said. Margaret Sanger, she said she wanted to kill all the Negro population, and that's why. So a lot of them just aren't made aware of that.
If we do make abortion illegal, what should the consequences be for somebody who still seeks access to it? Because I don't know if there's putting the toothpaste back in the bottle between abortion pills and different ways that women could still access it if it were to be illegal. So what should the consequence be if it were made illegal for people who seek abortion care?
Yeah, I think for that, honestly, I believe that with that, we're not, at least for me, I'm not trying to prosecute. I want women to get the support that they need. I don't want to see them get any fines or anything like that, because again, for a lot of them, they're really being coerced to do these abortions. So I personally, I'm not
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to follow because if you believe abortion is murder, which I believe
Yeah.
you do believe, and then women choose to pursue it, then
Yeah.
I don't see as to why a woman wouldn't be a murderer in that
Yeah,
case.
and again, there's like a lot of nuance with it, and this is like I've talked to women on both issues who've had abortions and who haven't, and a lot of like they truly believe that what is growing inside them isn't a human, or they're being lied to by other people, and so that's why it's a whole nuanced issue. So
It's interesting because, if anything, I feel like you're infantilizing women a bit, and you're saying like women almost can't make this decision
Yeah.
for themselves and are completely absolved of any responsibility here. It's like I think full-grown women could make these decisions and know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot of nuance with it, and that's why I'm like, I personally, like, I'm definitely not pursuing any action with that. In terms of other people have their own different beliefs, but with what I've seen, it's like, it's a very nuanced issue. So it's like, there's a lot of.
I know we recently got Donald Trump into office. This is his first week in. He said that he wants to send abortion back to the states and wouldn't pursue a national abortion ban. Do you think he kind of goes far enough on this issue?
I mean, I think honestly, like every state should have I guess honestly, I'm not as well versed in that as I would like to be in terms of like the political side of like the states. So I won't be like.
That's fair. Awesome. So we are out here today in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. I see you're decked out in MAGA gear. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you came out?
Yes, sir. I came out here 2 years ago. My baby sister, she died. She was a stillborn, and so just making sure that abortion has been outlawed is huge to me.
Absolutely. That's
Yes,
a
sir.
very powerful story. It's interesting because Trump was Trump's first week in office, but he's been relatively squishy when it comes to the abortion issue.
sir.
He said he wants to send it back to the states and would be against the national abortion ban. What's your reaction to that stuff?
With that, it's really just a point of view on how you take it. Part of it is the culture. So I'm from Georgia, and so in certain areas, abortion is like you don't talk about, it's taboo, but in other areas, it's very common to find. So just really depends on where you're from and what your views on it.
Absolutely. Well, I know Trump was the guy who helped overturn Roe v. Wade, but do you think he will be able to get pro-lifers to the next step of, making abortion illegal?
He did overturn Roe v. Wade, but I don't think he'll be able to get us to that next step. I think that's going to be a bit on us to try and push for that next step.
Yeah. And despite all that, you're still decked out in Trump gear and support him in a full-throated way.
Yes, sir. Big on Trump.
Absolutely. There's one other thing. One of his cabinet members that he's pointing to HHS is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's one of the most pro-choice people who would be in that position appointed by a Republican. What's your reaction to him appointing such a pro-choice person to be HHS secretary?
Well, with Robert Kennedy being in there, it's kind of a give and take. So if we had gone with Kamal, we would have had all pro-choice. But with Trump, we're getting a bit of a mix. And so I think that mix is healthy for us. And even though I don't agree with that, I do agree with a lot of his other policies that he's going to try and instate.
Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. Let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments. If this is your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay barely informed.